Welcome to a very special night here on the Promethean Secular Frontier. We have our annual Christmas special starting tonight. So I'd like to introduce a couple of co-hosts that I have. First is Andy Hall. Hey, Andy.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. Are you ready for tonight?
I got my special Santa hat. Maybe it's an elf hat. I don't know, Sunny, but I am ready. It just came in the mail the other day, and with a dramatic flourish, I am ready to rock and or roll.
That's perfect. I think we're on. So the next person I want to introduce is my good friend Laura.
Hello, hello. Long time no see.
I know, it's been...
Oh God, almost 24 hours?
24 hours, yes. We are becoming kind of the dynamic duo.
Yeah,
of the
absolutely.
PSF.
Like the Wonder Twins.
Exactly. Are you excited to be here tonight?
I am so excited to be here that I'm here with half of a numb mouth from the dentist. So let's do this.
Fantastic. We are going to have such fun tonight.
Right.
So we have some wonderful guests on. And the first one I want to introduce is Mr. Aron Ra. Hello, Aron. How are you tonight?
Doing well, I think.
You think. That's better than not knowing, so we're good. Next up is Seth Andrews, or as we affectionately call him, The Voice.
Hi, everybody. Or greetings, my brothers and sisters in the Lord. It is a beauty. It's wonderful to fellowship with you tonight. So,
Whew, I just had PTSD right there.
Oh dear.
no, it's actually I appreciate the invite. It's nice to be able to sit and play with all the big kids. So appreciate you very much.
There you go. And last but not least, hopefully, we have John Loftus. Hey, John.
Hi, I can hear it.
Yay! We were having some issues before, so.
No, I was having some issues.
But you're here now and you can hear us. That's
I got fixed, I think, just in time. I don't know.
Well, thank you all for coming. Tonight, we don't have a specific agenda or a specific topic. It's just our atheist Christmas, atheist summer solstice, atheist winter celebration, whatever we want to call it. So thank you guys all for coming. I really appreciate it.
I love it. I'm excited to be here.
The frontline warriors in the war on Christmas have all come together tonight to kill God. Dun, dun, dun.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, I get the thigh.
What happens when you walk by a TV with Fox News on? All of a sudden, you think, "Oh my God, they want to take away the holiday and make Christ illegal and strip the nativity scenes from everybody's private front yard and blah blah blah." You know, and I just think, is there a more vacuous, nonsensical, absolute crap war than the war on Christmas? Yeah, it's just bizarre that people buy into it, but they do. So.
I think when you're that entitled, you need something to complain about. So
Yeah,
I guess you gotta give it to them.
Absolutely. So before we get started, let's just hear what everyone has been doing this year, what some of your highlights from the past year has been. So let's start with Aron. What have your highlights been this year?
My highlights of the past year. Well, let's see. I got COVID.
Oh.
I'm sure I can do better than that. I did a series on Kent Hovind, which I thought would be the last that anybody ever needed to mention his name. But he is the low-hanging fruit that every bird and every worm wants to get a bit of. And then I moved on from that to Genesis Apologetics. I'm doing a new series about them. And what's hilarious about them is the way that I found out about them was that they were advertising on my channel. So somebody alerts me to them. I see that their ads are on my channel. And so I looked them up, worked out a series to do on them. So I'm debunking them now. And the comments that I get for every video that I upload are people laughing at the fact that Genesis Apologetics is still advertising on the videos I made to debunk them. So a lot of people are saying that they just let the ad run through, hysterical that Genesis Apologetics is literally paying me to
run their ad. I love it. Irony at its best.
That's
if it makes you feel any
fantastic.
better, Pureflix runs ads on my YouTube channel. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
trying to go after my audience with pure flicks, good luck to you, and you're gonna need it. So
Absolutely.
Why do they target, or how do they target people?
it's
like
probably
that?
the algorithm that has to do with religion, because I think religion may be one of my keywords since we go after religion. Or it's possible that maybe somehow they suffer from the delusion that atheists will respond to this, series of 2-hour Mentos commercials that they're passing off as cinema. I don't know, but
You asked a question when we were in Australia. Has anybody ever fallen for the street preacher?
yeah.
And I remember that being a profound question. I can't imagine anybody ever buying into the Kevin Sorbo atheist act.
Oh, dear God,
Loftus,
that's calling right
Loftus
there.
and I had this conversation after Reason Rally. I think this years and years ago, we were talking about maybe it's a street preacher, and I said the guy's masturbating. This is a form of theological self-gratification, right?
Mhm.
They go, they're bloviating, they pat themselves on the back that they went and they were a soldier in God's army and they did God good's work, and then they go back to their lair and everybody high fives each other. But what did they really do? And I really do think this is an act of self-gratification. So
It is, and I ran into one at a festival in Fort Wayne who had a jester's costume on, with a hat and a sign that said, "I am a fool for Christ." Okay. And usually I just walk past. I was just feeling ornery that day, and I walked up to him and I said, "So you're a fool, huh?" I put it like that, right? And yeah, I'm a fool for Christ. And I said, "You really are a fool, then, aren't you?" I mean, I was dead serious.
wow.
And I walked away. I mean, I wanted to try to get the point across that he truly should he should revel in that. If he's going to claim to be a fool, then I should be able to tell him, "You are a fool." I don't know how it went over. I'm pretty sure it didn't convince him of anything.
Yeah. Well, he said it first.
He did.
I often hear that that the Bible and the Quran have both made us out to be fools. That the fool is the one who does not believe impossible nonsense for no good reason. And I think that a fool is commonly understood to be one who too readily believes the improbable claims from questionable sources on insufficient evidence. And so it's no surprise that the Bible and the Quran both use the opposite definition from what we know that word means, because both of those books are trying to fool you. But that explanation has yet to work on a single believer.
It's gaslighting, isn't it? It's just simple gaslighting. They're telling their flock that they should revel in being a fool, and that the true fools are the people who are following reason and logic. Just don't trust them, don't believe in them. They're fools. They're of Satan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It
But
sounds
isn't
like
that like
Meanwhile,
the
the
most
Bible
tactic?
says- Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody's got an opinion. Go ahead.
No, we all jumped in. Go ahead.
it sounds like someone yelling at another person on YouTube. "You're the virgin. I'm not the virgin."
Well, it reminds me of that Bible verse where God says God uses the foolish things to shame the wise. So, then you're like, okay, well, then God purposely does bizarre and foolish looking things to confound these supposed, rationalists out there. I mean, they can twist it any way they want.
God is not a man that he should lie, but he does bring strong delusion and turn the scriptures into a lie by putting lies into the hearts of the prophets.
I feel like if I got a fortune cookie with that on it, I would probably frame it in my office.
I was
You
going to
know,
say, it's super deep, but I need to have it written so I can read
That's
it
heavy.
again.
It's heavy.
There's a passage in Jeremiah, I think Jeremiah 8:8, where he was the true prophet.
That's exactly
and-
the one.
And he says, "For the scribes have put lies into my word." I mean, he's quoting God. He's supposed to be speaking from God. "The scribes have put lies into my word," or something like that. I used to be able to quote a lot better than I am now. And
Chapter and verse.
it's right
Oh,
there.
Well, you
ahead.
still probably know it better than the street preacher. So I'm just saying.
I don't claim to be a fool. It's really odd that an adult, right, who has probably a good job, he could have been a boss. I have no idea, but he seemed like he was, I don't know, he probably was well off, whatever. He's walking around saying he's a fool. that's
weird.
that's a fool.
That really is. Call attention to yourself and then be surprised when someone reads it out to you. So, Seth, what did you have going on this past year that you want to highlight?
It's not like I've traveled much, with all the conventions essentially on lockdown, which is beginning to change. I attended my first event, the Faithless Forum event in Austin just recently, and it was a ball. It was a lot of fun to go out and actually connect. Everybody's verifying vaccinations. We're trying to be responsible about it, but to be a human being again felt pretty good. It's been audiobook year. I've read, I don't know how many. I read Dr. Josh's book, The Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament. I narrated David Madison's book. Dr. Madison wrote 10 Things Christians Wish Jesus Hadn't Said. And so I put that together. I just submitted, or I'm just submitting this week, a manuscript for a book that I finished. It's a book version of a speech I gave 3 years ago that became huge. I think we're up to 1.3 million views for a speech on YouTube. It's pretty amazing. It's called Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot. And we talk about the fact that, I wasn't an idiot when I was in the faith. I wasn't a stupid man, but often I spoke like one. What does religion do to the brain to cause us to be so rational about other things? But when it comes to this, the talking animals and the floating zoos and the levitation and the blood magic and all that, how did I partition that off in my brain? We talk about things like communion. When did it become normal to eat flesh and drink blood? What if we were ritualistically being asked to drink the blood of any other deity? Would that freak us out, And, so anyway, the book is that, and I just zipped it up, and it's being copy edited, and I'm about to submit it for a spring release. So it's been book year since I've been mostly in my office. But with American Atheists and Florida Free Thought, some other events coming up in 2022, I'm looking forward to getting out of my shell and going out and interacting with some people again. It'll be good to breathe the free air.
Yeah, I know what you mean when you say, the Faithless Forum was the first conference that I've been to since I stopped going to conferences because of COVID. And the last conference that I went to was Faithless Forum.
Was it?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
You know what it's like going to a conference with Aron Ra? Here's what it's like. I think it was Saturday night, Aron. I walk into the lobby, and for no reason, there's no costume party. For no reason, you're dressed like a pirate. You've got the eye patch, you got the pirate hat, you had the sword in the scabbard, did you? And then I think you had it was a plugged old school pirate pistol that was on a belt. And I thought, you know what? In Texas, you probably didn't even need the orange plug on the end because you would have been legal to carry an unlicensed firearm into an atheist convention.
What's funny about that is that I had a real black powder pistol that was made by a pirate friend of mine.
No.
And he died never having met his daughter. And so his daughter showed up at my house wanting to know about her dad. And he had made this gun for me. So I felt obliged to give it to her.
That is very sweet.
Wow.
That's a sweet story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I have flintlock envy. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I've never.
It's interesting.
Ahead,
you talked about your narrating books. I have a 530-page monster. If you want to, with about 18, 19 different authors. Can you sound like each one of us?
Oh my God. It's funny because I've actually scheduled, I throw that little link out to that probably, I don't know, once a week, just because I think it's a topic we don't talk enough about. Most of us come from the God is love, God is good background. Mm-hmm. And so this idea of the God of horrendous suffering is so relevant and it's so necessary. But I've got it scheduled to hit again. I just put it on the calendar to go out on Facebook and Twitter, I think on Saturday, But I saw the length of it and I was like, Jesus, John, you don't do anything halfway, do you? You got to put out a tome.
Well, I'm helped by other authors.
Yeah. That's impressive.
It's a good one. So I'll have to talk to you about that. I don't know if we can afford you. I talked to David Madison, you see.
Just yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever.
If you can't afford him, I'm cheap.
Yeah. Now, I look forward to Aron and I doing the female voices. I'm sure we'll pass that off without any problems whatsoever.
As long as all the women sound like Edith Bunker, I can probably do it.
And John, what did you have going on that you wanted to highlight this past year?
Well, I've been working on my house a little bit since I've been home as well. And we have been staying in more often than not. But, we got our vaccines and then we started going out more. But we're in one of those states right now where it's climbing. We have a friend right now that just got it on Sunday and he's very sick. I don't know. I have friends who don't get vaccinated. In fact, I don't have any personal atheist friends in this area. I just don't. Not anybody who knows anything about technology anyway. My laptop. I'm doing it on my own basically. I don't know why. There's just. I mean, I'm not people who argue such as like we do. There's some atheists who say, yeah, okay, I don't mind you at all, go ahead and go do it and stuff like that. But we hang out with a lot of people and when we can, but some of them are unvaccinated, and we try to stay away from any of their sneezes. but I've never had the virus. I'm glad. I know that when they first said we're going to give out boosters, I went into Walgreens about the first time they said that. I said, I want a booster. And they said, well, you have to have some extreme conditions, for you to get the booster this early. And I said, well, I'm immune deficient. I looked down that list. I'm mildly immune deficient, I said. And the guy looked at me like, do you have any proof of that? I said, no. Do you have any proof? I don't. I'm not. They had no clue. They had no clue. I mean, I showed them my card. I'd already got the first two, and so then I got that, and I brought my wife in. She got hers, and I'm telling you what, if there's a fourth shot, I'm in. I'm just not going to get that virus. So, but I was writing a book, editing a couple of books, and one is called Varieties of Jesus Mythicism. Where I co-edited it with Robert Price. And this God and horrendous suffering. It's my baby. That one in particular is my baby. I wrote a lot of chapters, and I helped co-write or helped edit a few of the authors to make sure that they had questions and I was answering them. Just maybe two or three others. So they both came out. They're out, and I'm done. So I'm announcing I'm selling books. I'm done. I'm done writing and editing books. I've had 12 of them published in about as many years, and they got a lot of accolades and stuff like that. Very rewarding kind of stuff. They've changed some lives. But some people say I probably don't change half a smithereen of minds as much as these two others do. But because people aren't reading books, I know that. Not too many of them. But it's kind of gratifying to see that that's done. But I'm done, and now I'm going to learn how to cook.
Nice.
My wife's a great cook, best ever, and so it's about time I learned a little bit. I helped make breakfast and helped make dinner tonight, and I kind of celebrate a secularized version of the holidays. I like the presents and the toys and the laughter and the games and the eats, especially the eats. So it's been a kind of fruitful year for me. Now I don't know what to do with myself. I'm retired, and I just don't know what else to do with myself. And so I'm going to try to find some other things to do. I like to play pool. I don't know if I smashed Aron last time we were playing down in Texas, but let him try me one more time. Let's see what happens. I'm getting a lot better. So I'll have to find some other things to do. So I'm always waiting, looking around for that kind of things. But it's not going to be writing or editing books. Maybe I can learn something about technology and try to do what you guys do. But you guys are just so excellent. I stand in awe at you.
Having seen how you played pool, I'd love to challenge you to a game of chess.
Oh, do you know?
I'm not playing you at pool again.
Do you know, Mr. Braggadocious? I have a chess ranking with the U.S. Chess Federation. That doesn't.
You should have Monopoly.
That doesn't mean anybody can get one. most people who say they can beat me at chess don't. I'd love to play a game, maybe online or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe we could do a fundraiser. With that.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression I would have my house handed to me then too.
I don't know.
Yeah. So,
It's
in
fun
the
being-
holiday spirit, I'm drinking a full-grown Nick. This is an imperial stout that tastes like drinking a fruitcake with all the bourbon that you have ever had in a fruitcake.
You had me
Sounds
with cake,
disgusting.
but you lost me with fruit.
Have you ever had the old style of fruitcake is like riddled with bourbon?
Yeah.
I actually haven't.
That's what I'm drinking right now.
I think I might
If you-
actually like it if it was.
You needed proof there is no God. Just know that the existence of fruitcake beer just negated.
That's evidence for
God.
Calvinist God.
There is no God. Fruitcake beer.
God is evil.
So,
I
Laura,
also wanted to mention that I got an interesting call yesterday from an old friend, Matt Dillahunty, who said that he was going in for open heart surgery, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, triple bypass at least.
Yeah. But it was an interesting phone call because he said, now just think about all the stereotypes you probably ever heard about atheists, right? He gives me a call and he says, well, I'm going in for this open heart surgery, and I'm not worried about it or anything, but just in case I don't live, I love you.
Wow.
Aw.
He called me and gave me the update as well. We've Aron and Matt and I travel the world together. We did a tour called the Unholy Trinity Tour, and so we became pals. And but I guess he's got a. I'm hearing an echo on my headset, by the way, from somebody.
That's
But,
just because you're godlike. The echo comes with it.
I guess. But I guess there's 100% blockage in one side and a 75+% blockage in another, and it's nothing they can stent. And so he's going to go in, and he'll be actually in the hospital after the surgery on Christmas, and then he's looking at a long recovery. So we'll be watching, and I'm sure if we need to, I know Aron and I are always available to pinch hit where he's needed in his own circles. But we'll be watching, and I encourage everybody to send him some love online, so I know he's checking it.
Yeah. And Loftus, you said you were going to learn how to cook. I can tell you there's going to be a side effect from that. And it will be some increased weight. There you go. I started figuring out how to cook, and I know how to eat food that tastes really good now.
See, it's not that hard. You tear open the flavor packet and you pour it in.
Put it in the boiling water.
God, what's the matter with you people?
I love it.
I'd love to make you some chili sometime, Seth.
I gotta wonder if John's going to be like one of those, like one of the rock gods of the 70s and the 80s, and then they say, "I'm out," like I have nothing left to give, world, and then they go off and wander in the wilderness like Cain from Kung Fu, and they do the things that they do, but all of a sudden they know I still have more music in my soul, and then they come back one day down the way to produce another album. I wonder if in 10 years we will hear this story from Dr. Loftus. Just saying. I'm just going on the record.
Maybe, but I'm weary. I'm tired. So it's a lot of work, and I don't have it. How about this? I don't have anything enough to say in a book. I mean, it's not like I'm.
Well, let me put it to you this way, John. I have seen Ozzy and Judas Priest both on their farewell tour 3 times.
So you call me a liar?
Well, I mean, I get weariness because I've been feeling. First of all, I know every activist in this live stream knows what it's like. There's only so many ways to say there is no evidence for any gods anywhere. There's only so many times you can debunk the Adam and Eve story as the origins of humankind and the Great Flood, and to get into all of the counter apologetics against the people who are the enemies of evolutionary science, blah, blah, blah. I mean, after a while, there is nothing new under the sun. And I think you start to build up scar tissue sometimes, and it's hard, especially in the time of COVID. I think it's hard to keep it fresh and to get up in the morning and try to be 100%, even 75%. And I've been having to sort of navigate that, how do I keep it fresh? Because I know it's important and I know it matters and I still love doing it, but it does after a while. How many times do you have to debunk Kent Hovind? How many times is it going to take?
Well, in my case, let me just tag on that. In my case, I have a wife, and she's getting extremely bored with me being on the internet, and even upset at times. And I'd rather be with her. She's wonderful. I love her, and so you've met her, and
yeah.
She wants to say hi. She might walk in and say hi to you before too long. Yeah, but
I'll tell you what works for me. On my bedside table next to my bed, I have a bottle of Rage, and I take a daily dose of that. Keeps me going.
I don't know how everybody else may be bored of doing the same thing again and again and again. And with the current series that I'm doing, I'm noticing that the Genesis apologetics, the people that I'm currently taking on, they do the same lies at the elementary school level and the high school level and also the college level. So I'm having to say the same thing again, correct the same error. And I know they're going to repeat it in the next series that they do. This is not going to change. I feel like I'm being really redundant about this, but I don't feel like I'm in a rut, so to speak, because when I started doing the speakers circuit, you could recognize where the atheist convention was when you started seeing the curmudgeons. The little old bald guys with the long white beards. That's what it used to look like. That's what the atheist convention used to look like. And things have been different. Faithless Forum was all young people, way too young, because they were all playing video games. And I'm like, okay, I'm lost. I'm going back to my room. And one thing that I was just recently, as the series starts up again, I was just today, in fact, invited to go speak at another conference in February. But it's not like the old conferences were. It's not a science conference. It's not, it's not the kind of thing that they did at, the Skepticon or anything like that. It's this is SatanCon.
Oh, SatanCon.
And I don't know why they would want, a nice Mormon boy like me there. But I'm game.
You're Satan adjacent, sir. That's what you are.
I just Google that. No, I'm Googling that. Hang on.
I just want to be clear. I'm done writing books. I'm not done, writing on my blog from time to time, or doing speaking engagements, or being in programs like this. But I'm done writing.
You're not ready to just sit on the front porch and pet the cat?
Yeah, I'm going to bring my cat up and show you. He's wonderful.
It's funny, when I was at Faithless Forum, I did notice. I mean, I don't know that I feel much older, but I've noticed everybody else is getting younger, which is strange. And I said to somebody, I don't know, maybe even been you, Aron, but I'm like, I could have fathered everybody else on the roster at Faithless Forum, right? I mean, it almost looked like a parent-child thing. And so there is a little bit of a different dynamic. But I'm glad for that. I think that we're slowly but surely expanding the tent. More and more people are becoming engaged. It's nice to see that specific demographic engaging, because I have in my life worried about the apatheists. The 30 and unders aren't really engaged in religion. It's not a meaningful part of their life, but it also, in some cases, means that they may not be engaged in the fights against the theocrats, the Christian nationalists. They may not even be aware of the overreach of the churches who were, infecting politics. And
I got to tell you that earlier this evening, I emailed Gutsick Gibbon. I hope that you remember her. She was.
Oh yeah, I interviewed her.
Yeah, one of the actual scientists I was on stage with, and I felt I was sitting next to her and Jackson Wheat, and I'm like, okay, well, these are the real scientists. I just play one on TV.
No, you're good. Yeah, don't sell yourself short. You've got
but I emailed her today, to offer her the League of Reason. I said, this is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see some, a younger troop. You find a group of people that you think would be appropriate to speak on a regular basis on this, like this old show that we used to do. Do something like that as you will.
Seth, you had said that you were worried about the kind of apathy of the younger generation. I think one thing that I've seen is that they are quite active when it comes to things like LGBTQIA plus rights. That kind of gets the ball rolling.
Yeah.
From that point, then it ends up getting into more of an atheist activism, because that encompasses so many of the problems the social problems that we face end up being wrapped up in religion, and how religion and politics have married in the last decade. So I think the younger generation actually tends to be a little bit more engaged than we give them credit for. And I think that's why we're seeing so many younger people at some of these conferences and being YouTube content creators and so forth. They want a better world in a lot of ways.
There is no doubt that they're driving their parents and grandparents crazy, as they are not at all interested in doing the things that the fundamental church has told, their parents and grandparents to do. They're not interested in judging people for who they are. They're not terrified of foreigners. They don't live around looking over the walls of a tiny tribe to the other tribe. They are more egalitarian. They are more accepting. They are more open-minded. So, yeah, that's a great point.
My son told me that there's a significant difference between his generation and mine. And I said, what's the difference? And he says, well, your generation had a future.
Yeah.
Good point.
There's this odd alliance between Zers and people who are much older. And because people who are much older remember when there was a future, oddly enough, and they understand what it's like to have one parent making the money, one parent at home, everyone not being at the edge of financial ruin. And they understand that this isn't right, what's going on.
So I don't think there's any like apathy in the youth necessarily, especially being a mother of 5 and 2 of them are 18-year-old, grown adults. What I'm seeing is a rejection of the models that they've been presented with. Religion being the biggest one of all, but the political and social models that have worked for their parents and grandparents' generations that don't work for them. Like, no, I'm not going to go work a 9 to 5, sitting at a desk, killing myself for the rest of my life. I'm going to go figure out a way to do something I love, right? And I think that they get a little bit mislabeled, but I see them as being really fired up and pushing back against a system that they don't see serving them.
Yeah, I think specifically my comments were about the battles against fundy religion. And I'm not making a blanket statement about the whole of the generations. I'm saying that because religion isn't necessarily a meaningful part of their lives, they may not be engaged in that frequency as much. But I totally take your point. Yeah. That's totally fair.
Yeah, for the most part, the reason why people don't appreciate gays and they don't appreciate women is because the Bible says otherwise, or the Christian by faith does, if you're a fundy, so every time someone loses their faith, I think they're headed in the right direction that we need our society to go, so I feel like I'm contributing somewhat, to that. Once we get religion out of the mix, then it removes a huge foundation for a lot of wrong ideas. So.
It was interesting too, when I left religion, I had to go back point by point through all of my values to try to figure out what do I think? Who am I? Well, how do I feel about this issue, whether it's right to die or the legalization of drugs or the reproductive choice or the role of government, healthcare, foreign policy. I found myself going, I'm going to have to go back to square one. There's no way I can compete in this particular diatribe with Aron's dog. So is that Falcor?
He wins the show.
Yes. What a bridges, Bobby. So anyway, but it was one of those things where once I exited, I realized how much of my identity had been dictated by my faith. So who am I? What are my values? What do I think about this stuff? Hi, I'm Seth. Let's introduce each other. And I had to go through that journey. After I deconstructed religion, I had to go through and reconstruct what my value system was. And it was liberating, but it was also sort of the undiscovered country, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think about, we were talking earlier, just kind of in jest, about the war on Christmas, and how frustrating that can be. And we're right in the thick of it. We're the baby killing, eating tribe that's trying to do away with it.
Can we just take a moment to think about the fact that you're not even joking?
I know, right. That's
that
exactly
was
right.
literally said, and not just against the atheists. That was literally said against everybody that wasn't part of the Fox News right-wing conservative audience. That there's only two types of people. There's the Fox News audience, and there's people who literally eat babies.
Right. Exactly. Under a Pizza Hut and engaging with sex trafficking, and apparently Hillary Clinton is in there with us. Who knew?
Yeah, and she's on the left all of a sudden when she never was before.
Right. And all of a sudden Biden's a socialist. It's crazy. It's interesting how we go to sleep. We go to sleep in reality and we wake up in some alternate facts.
I can't even
reality.
remind these people. I can't even remind these people that they went through the entirety of the Obama years, both terms, and you still have your guns. Funny thing.
Exactly. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
I had a friend who was into that sort of stuff. He was telling me that the virus was made by the countries. I don't know who, maybe just who knows, and it was going to kill us all. They had planned this, just one conspiracy after another. But let's just take that one, and there's nothing you can do. No, don't have to have a vaccine. There's nothing you can do. That's what they did. And so I said, well, now, what do you mean? How do you know that? I said, well, don't you know Biden is this, and he talked about he basically one ad hominem against him after another. And I said, well, because I know his name's Todd, and he's been in jail for smoking weed, and so I said, well, how do you feel if the judge were to say to you, well, we know you've been arrested before, so we know you're guilty now. So now I don't believe that Biden, any of those lies about Biden, but I said, let's just set everything aside, and let me ask you one question. Where's the evidence for your claim? Where's the approach it like you're in court, and you're walking into a courtroom, and you need to present some evidence. You can't just say, well, he's guilty because he was guilty before. And I shut him up. I couldn't believe it. He just stopped, pestering me on Facebook. Where's the evidence for this one claim? Let's get it, put it on the table, and talk about this one claim. Where's the evidence for that? They don't have any evidence for any of these claims. It's just innuendo and body slamming. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy
People
too to
gotta
watch
be
people
quiet,
talk.
though.
But they talk about how Biden's a Satanist, and I'm like, you realize he swore himself into the presidency on a 5-inch Christian Bible. What the hell are you talking about?
It's difficult to argue someone out of tribalism.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. I was going to say the hardest thing about those conversations isn't when you say, where's the evidence, and they shut up. It's when you say, where's the evidence? And then all this vomit comes out about circular reasoning. And well, this website says this and that says that. And even just to try and attempt to get at what real actual evidence is would take longer than it would take just to walk away from the conversation and just forget about it. But that's the scariest thing, is that they think that they have the evidence. They think they've got all this, oh, watch this documentary, no, read this book, it says it all. And
just do your own research.
Right. But they don't recognize what real evidence is versus this book this guy wrote, right, with his opinion in it.
If I may, too, and this leans us back into the war on Christmas narrative, but, why and how does the most privileged demographic in the United States claim persecution, right? I mean, 90% of Congress professes, 90+% professes Christianity. You've got Christian TV, radio, retail, free worship everywhere, display of Christmas or Christian symbols. You can wear cross necklaces and tattoos. Now you can be as Christian as you want. But why the persecution narrative? And I think it operates on a number of levels. First, it's a shoot the messenger thing. But more importantly, I think a lot of people believe, and even the Bible says, blessed are you who are persecuted for my sake. Christ himself said that the best Christians are persecuted. Well, what happens when you live in such a privileged position? You're supposed to be a good Christian. You just manufacture the persecution. It speaks to that self-gratification. Once again, the martyrdom. I am a soldier in God's army. And so if, you genuinely don't have an enemy, you just create an enemy and you battle that windmill, and then you go home and congratulate yourself on winning the battle.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two things going on here. There's exactly that, and then we alluded to it earlier in an earlier conversation, is the when you accuse somebody of the very thing that you're doing, right? And so that is actually like a really, really common tactic that I see these days is, here's all these things that we're guilty of doing, and then I'm going to accuse you of it instead. And that's what I see a lot
referred to that persecution. Around about Y2K, I came up with a phrase to describe that. It's the pot calling the silverware black.
Nice. Very nice.
I like it.
It's a tendency that narcissists have, where they will accuse all their detractors of the very thing that they themselves are doing it. And it's related to the gaslighting, that they won't realize that I'm guilty of this if I accuse you of the thing that I'm doing that you are not.
Yeah.
Well, now we're just accusing each other, and it's going to take you twice as long to convince the people that you're the one that's right, because I'm just as busy accusing you at the same time. Yeah, it just muddies the water and makes it all.
If your entire defense system is based on gaslighting, that's the strategy you want to take.
Yep.
It's like appealing every decision until your party gets elected back into the majority a year from now. And then you won't have to worry about it anymore, because those people don't care about factual reality anyway.
It's important to point out, once again, for people who didn't notice this, is that conspiracy theories are baked into Christianity. It's just baked in there about this kind of divorce from reality and about how persecuting the other. It's just baked in there, especially in this kind of American evangelical style of Christianity, whether you have the Salem witch trials, QAnon. It is just a straight line of this kind of hysterical non-reasoning.
I just wrote about that in my upcoming book.
Oh,
Christianity itself is a conspiracy theory.
You're spot on.
You've got the master planner, and his plans are thwarted by the evil agents. The devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and demons are everywhere, and there are heroes and there are villains, and you've got all of this tumult going on heading toward the apocalypse of Revelation. It's just crazy, but it is a conspiracy. So, of course, people who are weaned on that kind of wild, fundy religion are going to be primed for other conspiracies that come down the pipe.
Absolutely.
I was going to say that I love that you agreed with me.
Yeah, I asked one of my
I should
family
credit
members.
you. I should go back and resubmit the manuscript and say, Andy said.
I asked one of my family members, do you really think that Tom Hanks drinks raped baby's blood while he's worshiping the devil? And the response was, you can't prove he doesn't.
My mother posted something. My mother is a total MAGA Republican, evangelical Bible literalist. She posted some conspiracy that was actually sent out on Reddit as a joke to mock conspiracy nuts. And it was that, Fauci and Bill Gates roomed together at Cornell, which is impossible because freaking Bill Gates was 10 when Fauci was a freshman at Cornell University. And then that Bill Gates was in the college filing patents for RFID chips. That's bogus. And that George Soros was involved with the organization that gassed the Jews during the Holocaust, and that's the company that's making the vaccine. And I'm like, this woman has a master's degree, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, she has been primed, though, by her religion to believe the unbelievable. And it was the quote attributed to Mark Twain. It's a whole lot easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. And I understand the frustrations of everyone in this room. I think we're out there ringing the alarm going, hey, there are some real problems with your story. But once they're convinced, especially when there are tribal reinforcers and that self-gratification in place, it's really hard to break through.
Well, and
I
you
was
talk about the
protesting-
intelligence.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you talk about the intelligence that your mother has, and sometimes that actually works against people because they'll think because I'm intelligent, there's no way that I can be fooled, or there's no way that whatever it is that I believe could possibly be false. So I think that it's sort of a misnomer that religious people are stupid or they're somehow ignorant. The people that are the best to fool are the most intelligent, because once they buy into it, they think that because I'm so intelligent in all these other ways, there's no way I'm making a mistake here. And it's even harder to break them down.
What's that line? Smart people are the best at defending the decisions they came to for non-smart reasons.
Yeah.
You know, they're really good at outsmarting themselves. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we have a couple questions from the audience I want to go ahead and grab before we run out of time. One is from Mr. Lightning 20. What is the panel's view on cult versus religion?
Number of congregants.
Agreed.
No, I don't think there actually is a difference. I think religions are just very large cults.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Amen, sister and brother in the Lord. Well said.
I'll also say that when my kids were younger, I would tell them the exact same thing. I didn't hold any punches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a
All
difference.
right. Theoretically asks, do you consider yourself an ethical, moral realist or anti-realist?
Jesus, I don't think I understand
That's
the question.
philosophical. Yeah, I can define both of those.
Yeah, that's a...
Yeah, I can tell you this. When I was the worst person that I've ever been, I thought I was put upon. I thought I was the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
It took a long time for me to realize what a villain I was when I thought I was being put upon.
Yeah.
Because you never realize when you're the bad guy. The bad guy is always the villain in almost every movie, and certainly in real life, believes that they have moral justification for the evil that they do.
Villains are always the heroes in their own story.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right, from Converse Contender. Anyone heard of or contended with Dr. John Walton, Dr. Michael Heiser, or Dr. Richard Averbeck? They are no Hovind, but
Never
I haven't
them.
heard of...
Yeah, I
Never
haven't
heard of
either.
him.
Well, John Walton, he thinks that the Genesis accounts of creation are not literal.
Is he the one with the mole right here? Or am I thinking of the wrong Walton?
So what? It's all literal. A
No, I
day
see.
means a million years, kind of thing.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's something along the lines that it represents just certain things. It's been a while, but
It's not literal, is what you're
it's
saying.
not. But it's not literal, and so that's really a long way from my days when I was in seminary, where there was a big debate between evangelicals over inerrancy versus not being inerrant, and that involved Genesis, whether or not it was literal or whether it was 7 long days or something like that. Well, evangelicals, they did come around to the idea that they could still believe in an inerrant Bible so long as we understand its context. We understand what its genre is. Like, for instance, you can't treat the Psalms like you treat Jesus' speeches, for instance, or something like that, or Paul's didactic writings, So then they come to the conclusion that Genesis is mythical. It has mythical meaning. And so since that's the truth about the passage, we can still believe the Bible's inerrant, that we can still believe the Bible is speaking the truth because it's speaking mythically. No, serious. So John Walton is one of the leaders in that type of talk, and it's just it's mind-boggling, to be honest, that they can still say, well, the Bible's inerrant, or the Bible is God's word, literally, but this is myth. I'm serious. That's what they do. And, I write about it and talk about it. And first off, I think they're right, about the myth part. But they're wrong to claim it's still truth. It's still
I've actually heard the apologetic argument that the reason that there are like different accounts and different contradictions in the Bible is because these are these different human perspectives.
Yeah.
Well, if the facts are different according to who's writing them, then how do we attribute any of this to God?
I'd like to put 50 apologists in a room and just ask them the basics. Right? Ask them the
Have you ever
basics.
seen one of those things where they create the circles and it's like step forward if you believe this and step back, and it's to show that everyone has different beliefs or whatever? It'd be really funny to do it that way.
Is the
That would
Bible
be
literal or
awesome.
metaphor? How do you what's the right way to baptize? Tell me about eternal security. Does hell exist? What's hell look like? Speaking in tongues, was that for yesterday or today? The nature and frequency of miracles. You can just go through the basics of Christianity and you ask these quote unquote experts about it and then just leave the room and they'll probably kill each other before the day's over.
Oh my God! I was
Just-
about to say Seth Andrews has just developed evangelical Squid Game.
The only problem with what Seth has just proposed, and I absolutely love this idea. I've always loved that idea. I've suggested it to my best friend in high school who became a Southern Methodist Baptist minister. I'm sorry, a Southern Baptist minister and a principal of a Christian school, a Young Earth Christian school. I said, well, what we ought to do is we ought to get a number of the leaders or leading scholars of a number of these different religions to hash out what the one and only actual truth is. And he said, we will never do that. Well, why not? He says, I can't tell you. What the hell is that about? The only problem really with Seth's suggestion is that we can't pay the $10 million per person that each one of these guys would demand.
Well, and it's not, it's even better than the Lutherans fighting with the Methodists, fighting with the Presbyterians, fighting with the Assemblies of God, fighting with the Baptists. You can just go into the Baptist. All right, let's get the Southern Baptists to argue with the Free Will Baptists, with the First Baptist, with the Liberty Baptist, with all the Reformed Baptists. Let's throw the Baptist in a room and ask them the basics, and they'll still chew each other to ribbons. I have come to the point, and I say this in the new book, that I think the very claim that God would require an apologist refutes the idea of a benevolent God.
Yeah.
The idea that God would need someone to explain this critical life, death, eternity message. And those explainers can't agree on anything. And so many of them find themselves in the headlines in horrible ways. This idea that God would ever use an apologist, for me, is a great refutation of the idea of benevolence in a deity.
No,
You get an old Earth creationist like Hugh Ross and a young Earth creationist like Ken Ham. And let's assume that, all of the things that you agree on are correct already. Let's just make that assumption to begin with. Now, on old Earth versus new Earth, which one of you is right?
Now, I like to use the arguments that they each make against each other. That's one of the things I do and have done in my writings, and that is to read what the liberals have to say, and I quote them against the fundamentalists, and then I'll use what the fundamentalists say, and I'll quote them against the liberals. You can do that with different religions as well. I like to put them all in the same room if you could ever pay them the $10 million bucks, like you said. And I say, put them all in the room and, find out which religion is true. And once you figure that out, come out and I'll debunk it.
There's a great book on this, by the way, a great book called The Outsider Test for Faith. I think that everyone should definitely check out.
I know who wrote it.
Yeah, I know the guy who wrote it. Yeah.
I went to a thing in Kansas City where they had an interfaith thing that I thought was just a beautiful strategy, where they had two representatives of American Protestant Christianity and then a Catholic. So we have two Protestants representing, the divergence that Seth was talking about, compared to the Catholic, compared to a Jew, compared to a Hindu, and compared to a Muslim. That was all on this panel. And these people, it's clear that they have only ever previously spoken to people who believe like they do. Now, the Jewish representative, he admitted that he should be in the audience rather than on the panel. He said, look, I'm Jewish, but that doesn't, just being Jewish doesn't mean I believe in God.
Right.
There's a lot of Jewish people who are atheists. And the Hindu, we all kind of laughed bemusedly at what he was saying, because it's just all, it just comes across to Westerners as absurdity. It's not something we were taught from a young age that we had to revere. But then when the Muslim began to speak, when he started speaking about women's restrictions in society, and he's talking to a few hundred atheists, I'm like, dude, you better sneak out the back way quick, or all these pacifists are going to murder you.
So now we have just a couple really silly questions for you for some kind of a lightning round. Light beer or dark beer? I say dark.
Dark.
Apple cider.
Once you go black.
Yeah, I'm a lightweight.
Medium,
dark beer.
medium.
Root beer. That's all I drink.
Root
Medium.
beer. Hot sauce or not?
I gave Seth some really expensive double-digit ABV home-brewed stuff, and he's like, not my speed. I'm like, I was
driving. No, we were in Dallas, Texas, and I was about to hop in the car to drive to Austin. And Aron shows up with a cooler of all these beers for me to taste. And I'm like, first of all, I don't drink. I just don't. I'm a total lightweight. I'm not going to drink that stuff and then get in the car and drive to Austin, Texas. And you would have thought I had insulted his firstborn. He looked genuinely wounded.
Hot sauce or no hot sauce?
No hot sauce.
They don't make a hot sauce.
Yeah.
I love hot sauce. Although I will
Me
say,
too.
I watched some of those videos that you put out, Aron, after you while you were at Faithless Forum, and I would be petrified to actually do any of those taste testings. I think I'd probably be in the hospital with a stomach ulcer or something. But it's very fun to watch you, though. Yeah,
it's funny that I jumped on Eric Murphy, who gave me that 7 million Scoville bottle. It seemed like I was attacking him for having given me a gift, which is something that I feel bad about in retrospect, because he did give me an appropriate gift, hands down, and I was able to get some good video fodder out of that. Shit was hot.
Yeah, he was just
I know
cheating.
that he can handle it too, because he and I have eaten together. We've been to a couple of hot and spicy places here in my hometown. I know he can eat hot.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me unfair to have criticized him for having gotten me that gift.
So now it's out there in the YouTubeverse that you have apologized. All right, cat versus dog.
Oh, C, both.
I've got one of each.
I have one of each. My cat is evil. He's half feral, I think. He is honestly evil. I was walking across the living room. He attacks me as I'm walking and made the little soft part of the back of your knee is where he attacked, and it bled. That hurts. And then he looks at you like, what? What's up? I'm just, walking here. Yeah. And my dog practically molests me with loving and kissing and, licking all over the place. But I love them both. I can't help it. I do.
I have 3 of each. They were all rescues. They were all saved from imminent doom.
Very nice. I like it.
But I have to say that my favorite of all of them is the great white polar bear that is at my feet at the moment, who escaped from his yard because his owners wanted to enable his escape, and they refused to put a collar on him because they didn't want anybody to call them. We found a chip on him, and when they realized that we were using the chip to get him back to the owners, they turned him into the pound.
Wow.
So this dog that had walked into my front door as if he lived here, he just walked into literally, somebody opened the front door and said, hey, we got this giant dog here, and he walks in. And he's immediately playing with my other dogs in the house. And so he spends the night with us, and we find the owner as soon as business is open the next day, and then the owner takes the dog directly from me to the pound. And now I'm paying $35-$40 to get back the dog that was effectively mine the night before. And I absolutely love this game.
I got a couple of dogs who I just love, Linus and Gracie, and we have a cat. And I will say, I'll choose dog if nothing else for the reason that at 3 a.m. the dogs don't walk around in the middle of the house going, because that's what freaking cat does.
Yeah. No, my 2 cats are kittens, so it's at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, what's that about? That weird middle of the night howling and freak out? What's that accomplish? What does that do?
Our most recent cat, I got to tell you, that I saw her in the rearview mirror. I'm driving along, and I'm in a Jeep, so I have no roof. Took the doors off. I'm completely open, and I see in the rearview mirror what I thought initially was a squirrel shooting between and under moving cars. And then I realized that's not a squirrel. That is a very, very tiny kitten, And so I didn't know what else to do. I had to stop traffic. So I turned my Jeep sideways to block both lanes to get out and then try to catch this very fast but very tiny, malnourished kitten. And now I have no way to hold her because I have no roof and no doors. So I put this kitten in my wife's hands, and I'm like, okay, we got to do something to save this kitten. We got to find a home for this kitten. And my wife looked at me very, very sternly and said, "She's mine."
Oh, game
okay.
Yep, no questions asked. Done deal.
Well, we have a black cat, and it came, and we brought it in. We named it Z because they had a little white Z there, and it had its ear clipped. So we looked into it, and that's a feral cat that the Humane Society will release in the neighborhood and let it roam from house to house. And so then we let the cat go, and it came back a week later. And then we were bound and determined to get that cat. So we just treated it like it was the king, we called him King Z. And we fed him all the best stuff and loved on him. And so then he gone and come back 3 days later. Then gone, come back 2 days later. Then gone, come back one day. And each time would stay longer in our house, And we let him out and come in. And until finally, he just stays around now. We've got him, He doesn't go anywhere else. And so we were quite pleased with that.
And the reason is probably not the reason you're bragging about or that you're thinking about, but it's because you named the cat Z, and the other people it was staying with was naming it Mortimer.
Good point.
We are a couple minutes over. I just want to be mindful of all of y'all's time because you were wonderful to come on the show. One last statement from each of you, just really quickly. What do you hope for the new year for 2022? We'll start with Aron.
I think we're doomed.
No, doomed.
Have a nice day. Merry Christmas.
Not literally, but I think we're still fighting some kind of idiotic civil war by the unvaccinated are trying to stick it to the libs. What the hell is going on with that? Right? They don't care, and they want their guns because they're afraid of the government, and it's not good. I mean, I don't see things getting too much better except for the likes of Seth and Aron and myself and others. And we're trying to light a candle in the dark, and that's all we can do. But it's really kind of disheartening, that part of life is, and I don't know how it's going to change with this conspiracy types that are spreading all kinds of idiotic, utterly barbaric types of things. So it's not, and climate change, we could go on. It's not looking too good, to be honest, for me.
Yeah, if I could just tackle onto that. I mean, I think that personally, the greatest thing that humanity is capable of is that when we get together, there's nothing we can't do. We can overcome anything when we are unified, but we will not unify. And that's so irritating. We know what to do. We know how to do it. We have the technology. We can solve every damn problem. And one of the things that I've noticed just in the course of this conversation is, because you always notice these things when you have a conversation with Seth, is that it's so much easier to love than it is to hate. And that's what endears you with other people's memories anyway. So why can't we focus on that? But So far, we don't. And so all I can say when people ask me for my hopes for the future is that I say, well, I'm glad that I'm old and I can afford the good drinks.
I think if I had to pick a word out for 2022, it would be vigilance. And the reason is that I worry a lot like my fellow guests do. We are, when we see misinformation weaponized the way it is by so many different parties, whether it's the clickbaiters who are doing it for money or political organizations or foreign nations or whatever. And we see, I used to think that you could sell a conspiracy to some people, but I didn't realize they'd buy it on the scale that they buy it. Like, 25%, or is it 20% of Americans polled recently believe some shade of a QAnon thing somewhere. Mm-hmm. Not the whole thing, but at least some part of it, And then we get into the deep fake videos, and we're seeing now that footage is being faked of people doing and saying things they never did. And so I think vigilance is the only thing we can do, in the hopes that we can counter these forces. Giving up's not an option. And so as long as there is a fight to be had, I think we've got to keep kicking. And while we're doing that, remember that there is still good in the world. And I remain convinced that there are still a lot of wonderful people doing wonderful things for wonderful reasons. And in order to keep part of my heart from dying, whenever I see all of the battles and the hate and the nastiness and the toxicity, I try to balance it out by reminding myself that, good people exist and people are leaving religion, and the religion in the United States is waning slowly. People are walking away. The churches are panicking. There's a reason that the Christian nationalists are having to weaponize the courts, gerrymander, and do all this other stuff, because they're losing the base. They're losing the country. So there are reasons. But beyond that, vigilance, eyes on the prize, keep kicking, keep working, and realize it does matter. And that would be my encouragement to everybody.
Well said.
That's beautiful last words. I want to thank Andy Hall for co-hosting with me, Laura for co-hosting. You guys are great. I love working with you guys. I want to thank John Loftus, Seth Andrews, and Aron Ra for taking time out of your busy schedules to come on and help us with our Christmas special. For all of you out there watching, remember we have a Patreon account, and so if you want to keep seeing good content like this, please be sure and support us. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, share. Check out all of our great guests here, all of the stuff that they're doing as well. That's what's keeping us up, what's keeping the progressive movement going forward, and we're doing some great work. I want to also thank, behind the scenes, we have Wes, we have Kathy, we have Phil, we have Josh, and we have Jenna, and I had to write them down because I didn't want to miss anybody. I keep missing someone every single time I miss a name, so I wrote them down. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to make sure I get them all. If it wasn't for all their hard work, we wouldn't be able to do this show. So on behalf of all of us at PSF, we hope that you guys have a wonderful holiday season, whatever you are celebrating, and a Happy New Year. And remember, think critically. Good night.